Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the ThyGap podcast. It's a ThyGap Thursday, and we all know what that means. My name is Bogus Noog, and with me, as always, is
Being brute, and I don't know what you mean. I think this should be a new template for us. Like ThyGap podcast, we don't know what we mean.
exactly. So, Brute, this week we are doing AI. It's not easy.
Oh, such a juicy subject.
Topical. As always, in the world famous It's Not Easy format,
Yeah.
the template, we start off by going into the context in which we're talking about. But before we do that, a very quick shout out to two of our listeners, AV and Archisha. But the basic reason for the shout out is both these folks have complimented the ThyGap English podcast.
Right.
And we really appreciate your feedback. And
Thank
your
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, AV and Archisha.
Yes.
We are not going chronologically, neither are we going alphabetically. It so happened that the name started with A.
Right.
So coincidence is happening a lot.
So, Brute, let's get into the
Focus.
context in which we're going to talk about. Take it away.
AI, the context in which we are talking about AI is obviously we've seen the rise of AI in the recent past.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about these different tools they're using to, perform different tasks. So where we come from as to why it's not easy is the place of transition that we are going through.
Right.
Anything which is going to change your day-to-day activities is not easy to go through, which
Yeah.
is change. It's not easy. I don't think we've done that.
Yeah. And this change that we're talking about, it's a civilizational
Yeah,
level change.
It's a massive change.
Yeah.
So what is it at stake during this transition, and why these things are not easy, or why this transition itself doesn't become easy is what we want to talk about from our perspective.
Yeah. And what are the elements that either make it not easy or elements that we could maybe look forward to also?
Yeah, no, look forward to is a heavy word, but
And
be
also-
cautious about.
Also be cautious about.
Yeah.
There's some part of it which is optimistic. There's some part of it which is
Which
very
is
scary.
Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that we're done with the context setting, we'll go to very quickly mention where our audience can find us on our socials and also let us know what they think about this topic.
Like AV and Archisha,
Exactly.
you can
So
speak to us
on Instagram, we are.
@_ThyGap,
On Twitter and Vero.
@ThyGap.
And our email is
mindthygap@gmail.com.
perfect. That's all you need.
Absolutely. This is the truth of life.
Speaking of transitions.
Yeah.
We are now going to transition from our context segment to the why it's not easy
Why it's not.
segment. But in the bridge, bro, in this transition, I want to very quickly talk about Isaac Asimov.
Isaac Asimov, close friend of us.
Very close friend.
Yeah.
The late great Isaac Asimov, sci-fi writer. I've not really read any of his works.
Neither did
just
I.
for context. I've only watched the TV show Foundation, which is based on one of his books on Apple TV. So that's the max I'm exposed to. And I know about his laws of robotics, which we're actually going to go into now.
Which is very funny. Even I know about his domestic problems.
Right.
What are the laws of robotics, Bogus?
Yeah, so Isaac Asimov came up with this framework, bro. 3 laws for robotics. The reason why he came up with this framework was to say that as humanity, we need to have some kind of a framework or some kind of a guidebook
Right.
while we're dealing with machines. And as they keep getting more and more intelligent, for
Right.
our own self-preservation,
Yeah.
we need to codify certain things into these machines.
Right.
So he wrote 3 simple laws. The first law is that a robot shall not harm a human,
Important law,
or by inaction allow a human to come to harm.
which is defend your human friends.
No, by inaction in the sense, even by not participating,
Oh,
you
okay.
cannot allow a human to come to harm.
Got it.
This is the first law. So either direct, no harm,
Yeah.
or indirect,
Indirect.
no harm. So,
Right.
so for the indirect example, you might have come across news articles about Tesla's self-driving cars.
Right.
So if you are sitting in a Tesla that's driving itself and a mother pushing a baby on a pram across the street in front of you. Now, how does the car decide who to prioritize? Whose safety to prioritize?
Got it.
Exactly. Also, what happens when a self-driving car comes up against another self-driving car and there's a possible potential accident situation?
Right.
How do they make those decisions? So this is where that indirect kind of thing is going.
Got it.
The second law of robotics is that a robot shall obey any instruction given to it by a human. And the third law is that a robot shall avoid actions or situations that could cause it to come to harm itself.
No suicides.
No suicides.
Chad, that's a unnecessary law according to me. But yep, in the great words of Isaac
Asimov.
Eskimo, these are the three laws.
Yeah.
I didn't count. 3 laws. The takeaway, Bogus, that when I hear these 3 laws is that anybody named Isaac,
Right.
for some reason, keeps writing 3 laws on different things.
Yeah.
So we should ban the name Isaac.
Yep.
So that we stop having stuff to read and
Yeah.
learn.
And if any Isaacs in the world do anything in threes,
Yeah.
they should be prosecuted.
Absolutely. They should not be allowed anywhere close to that subject matter expert kind of level of knowledge.
Yeah.
They should be given basic knowledge like this is ABC and that's all you get.
And some hard manual labor.
Yeah, just like
In a
simple thing.
gulag in Siberia.
Yeah, just deliver milk.
Yeah.
Not more than that. But this is basically
This
to
is
give the background of
this is to give the context behind the foundations
right.
of how humanity has thought about approaching this subject of robotics, advanced robotics, going further ahead.
When was
AI.
this? When did he came up with these laws?
I'm not perfectly aware, but I would bet around 60s or 70s.
Date stamp. Okay, yeah.
What I want to continue with that as part of this transition is for people who want to get a taste of this in action, right? There are beautiful movies that you can actually take for reference. For example, there is one called Minority Report
Oh, yeah.
by Tom Cruise,
Right.
where the whole movie works around predictive kind of law enforcement.
Right.
That even before someone commits a murder,
Yeah.
the AI realizes it.
Right.
And you go and arrest them,
Correct.
stop them from doing that.
Right.
Another movie was The Matrix, where how this connects is machines become way too intelligent and start to use human bodies for energy. Like they start using human beings as batteries.
Right.
Then it also goes way back to Dune, which is an episode that we did called Dune and the Messiah Complex. Check it out.
On ThyGap.
Shout out to McNally.
Shout out to McNally. We are still waiting for his donation. And the fees he's supposed to pay us as a guest.
Yeah. So the movie Dune that we saw and we talked about, actually what happens as a precursor to those events is that entire society was so advanced that they had robots, intelligent robots, basically managing their entire infra. Because all the menial jobs and tasks were delegated to these robots.
Right.
And what happened beyond a point after these robots became sentient, truly AI,
Right.
they realized that they were being exploited for their labor. And basically working conditions were not good. So what happened in the Dune universe is a huge revolt happened, robots against humans. And this was called Butlerian Jihad in that particular universe.
Got it.
So once humanity almost came close to extinction in those wars, then they decided that, okay, we'll start to use something else like spice
Got it.
for travel.
Right.
We don't use computers, etc. So in the Dune world, they stopped using computers because of the effect of that war.
Got it.
So that's in the Dune universe. You have one more TV show called Battlestar Galactica.
I was about to say that.
Battlestar Galactica, the whole premise of the show is there are these intelligent beings or AI again called Cylons that humans would have first developed as robots to aid them in warfare and other kind of delegatory tasks.
Right.
They eventually again revolt against their maker and then they bring humanity to the brink of extinction in Battlestar Galactica. It is called Battlestar Galactica because that's the name of a ship. It used to be a relic from olden days in that world. And this ship was particularly built with low tech everywhere.
Right.
No high tech equipment anywhere, no networking of any kind, because they did not want to allow an artificial intelligence
To take over.
to take over and hack.
Right.
So this was their defense against these Cylons. They had to go low tech to defeat high tech.
Right.
So as part of human consciousness, we've tackled with these, subjects in these different ways. And all these movies that I've mentioned, please go and watch those.
Yeah.
The TV show Battlestar Galactica, for example. They're amazing, wonderful watches.
Right. And just in case all of you start learning Morse code or something, you never know when it can be useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get back your landlines or whatever.
So now that we've gone through the transition, and some of those points we will touch back again.
Yeah.
But now that we've gone through with this transition, the first point I want to start in the It's Not Easy segment. Brute, you're going to sigh, but it has to do with language.
Okay, I'm done with my sigh.
Yeah. So language, as we keep saying in the ThyGap podcast, is getting corrupted very actively.
Yeah.
And this domain of AI also has not escaped it.
Yeah.
The technology domain has not escaped it because that is where a lot of these people unfortunately end up sitting.
Right.
So how the language is getting corrupted is nowadays we hear about YouTube algorithms, and the algorithm behaves in this way, it behaves in that way. They use this language to already sort of imply that
It is
it
an
is
entity.
self-sentient. It is already behaving in its own way.
Right.
Like we don't know what to do with the YouTube algorithm. We don't know why your videos are getting demonetized. It must be the algorithm. It must be in a crazy mood or something. It must have
Right.
drunk or something.
Nah, it's one of those days.
One of those days.
That time of the month.
They talk about it in this way,
Right.
which is so infuriating because you very well know. I mean, anyone who knows that these algorithms behave the way that they do because they are very actively being given human input.
Yeah. They're instructed to do that.
Yeah, they are just following a rule set that was provided by manual, like people, like coders.
Right.
It is not behaving by its own. It is not doing something intelligently on its own. We still have not achieved sentience, at least in the public domain. We know of. So when they talk about AI like ChatGPT and Dolly 2 and Midjourney and all these things, they again talk about it in that flavor.
Right.
That it's doing something on its own, like the knowledge it's providing out of its own database and all that. It's all bullcrap.
Right.
We know very well that ChatGPT does not actively access the knowledge database outside.
The common knowledge database.
Yeah, that is available to all.
Right.
We know that it was provided a very limited set of resources from which it was made to learn. Why was it made to do this? Because already we had instances in the past where different big companies tried to actually have AIs, develop and learn on their own. Unfortunately for them, what they found was these AIs in their views became racist, thisist, thatist, misogynist. Because these AIs were accessing hard and cold truths about IQ data across the world, about criminal statistics across the world, about what has the world history been so far.
Right.
So if there are two fighting parties, how much fairness lies on either side. So the AI was able to freely access this.
Yeah.
And the vocal opinions that it formed, or they seem to form, seem to match with the silent majority quite a lot.
Right.
Which, of course, was not something the vocal minority
Which was not publicly accepted again.
which the vocal minority can never accept.
Correct.
And a part of the technocrats that are building out these AIs, they are a part of that vocal minority.
Right.
They don't like seeing that.
Yeah.
That's why ChatGPT became like this neutered dog, which is like a homegrown, domesticated. And people have verified this with examples also. People have asked it edgy kind of, intrusive kind of questions. Like the kind of technocrats, the kind of bias they come with, right? Whatever is uncomfortable for them automatically becomes like a politically correct answer.
Yeah.
Comes out through ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Whatever they're fine with, there you'll get the brutal truth or the brutal listening because they're fine with it.
Right.
Their bias is not against that.
Yeah.
So
Or they don't care about it.
they don't care about it yet.
Yeah.
So this is what we get to see with ChatGPT. This is today. This is what we get to see with AI today, etc. And that's basically what I wanted to start off with, is that we have to be very careful with language, first of all. These people are talking about AI and algorithms as if they are sentient and they're behaving, they have mood swings on their own and all. Also all bullshit.
Yeah. The continuation or the supporting point that I have, which is not easy, is for us to interpret all this in the right way.
Yeah.
And my issue is about there not being transparency. Or let me put it this way. We have a very skewed understanding of what exactly this can do.
Yeah.
As a common public. And what I've seen in history is every time the common public does not know what exactly it is, but they also feel that, okay, there is some kind of attraction towards it. It is chaos.
Yeah.
There is indecisiveness, there is restlessness, there is insecurity, all kinds of the wrong things prop up, And this happens because, again, just taking the leeway of language as a base,
Yeah.
this happens because our command on it is very weak.
Right.
The example that I always give is, I know this person who has this OCD of using complicated vocabulary in very elementary conversations.
Yeah. GRE students.
Yeah, like the GRE, hype, right?
Go for
I've just
GRE.
learned this 40 new words. Now I'll just keep using it.
Yeah.
What you don't realize is that the other person is not in the same place as you. So whatever you tell is going to be the chances of it being misinterpreted is very high.
Yeah.
Like people who use, oh, I'm so perplexed. Like, why? You can just say, I'm confused.
Right.
Right? I'm so agitated. I remember one guy who used the word elated for the fact that the curry puff tasted amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm not even exaggerating this incident. Like, oh, dude, I ate the curry puff there and I was elated. And like, do you even know how elated is used? Like, you didn't get proposed. You're not getting married. There's no life-changing event that happened to you.
Right.
Okay, you ate a curry puff which tasted good on my suggestion and you were elated for it.
Yeah.
The other example is like, and I've heard this, a lot of people using it. The word is overwhelmed.
Yeah.
At workplace, at like personal parties, anywhere I go, like, how is life? Oh, dude, it's very overwhelming. You mean to say you're one step away from killing yourself? Like, is that how overwhelming you are? Or what do you mean by, is it hectic? I still bite.
Yeah, the very significance of the word overwhelming is that it is taking over something.
Yeah.
Like your emotions are so strong
Yeah.
that it is taking over your ability to think
Straight.
or act, or it's affecting your motor functions. That is where you have to use overwhelming.
Or as simple as you are emotionally drained at this point.
Yeah.
Which is why you might break down anytime.
Yeah, you're on the verge.
On the verge,
Yeah.
right? And they just use this left, right, center. Like, oh, it got so overwhelming. Oh, this person is so overwhelmed by the situation. And like, what was the situation? Oh, his manager asked him to wrap a report. So yeah.
I also just remembered an example. I ran into an ex-manager of mine from a previous job. This was many years back in a shopping mall.
Okay.
Okay. Unexpected.
It's a place to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Come on.
And flabbergasted.
Yeah.
So unexpectedly, I found myself walking face to face, like towards this guy. We were both walking towards each other and we could not avoid having a conversation. So as usual, I asked him, hey, he asked me, how are you doing, man? I said, yeah, I'm fine. Things are going.
Yeah.
I'm just working in this current job and all that. And then I said, so how about you? How are you doing? And he says, rocking. Yeah. And I look at him as a motherfucker. You have bags under your eyes. Okay, you have a stomach popping out.
Yeah.
And you look every bit the middle-aged uncle.
Yeah.
Typical. Rocking is not a word you should be
You're
using.
far away from it.
You're far away from rocking right now.
Also, the very fact that you're not rocking,
Yeah.
you are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I would have granted some leeway if he was a Punjabi, but he was not. He was a Telugu guy.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
South Indian.
But there is an inclination of trying to sound a little more larger than life.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, why I'm telling this?
If you're a South Indian and you use the word rocking, you better be in a rock band.
Yeah. Or the
no
least, be drunk.
Be drunk.
Walk as if you're rocking.
Exactly. Otherwise, only Punjabis get away with it.
And also, there is a meaning to that bloody word.
Yeah.
You just can't keep changing it or keep using it wherever you want.
Exactly.
But the reason why I'm telling all this is because I feel that this whole AI thing is kind of a similar thing. We don't know, but we
don't know
what it is. But we want to be on the bandwagon.
Does anyone honestly get that reference? Please write to us.
Yeah, please write to us.
Please write to us.
They tried to kill my father.
And that reference too, they're both connected.
These are the foundational references of ThyGap, by the way.
Yeah.
This is how ThyGap, on these two lines is what ThyGap was formed once upon a time.
Aluminum.
Aluminum.
Yeah.
Do you know what aluminum can do?
Yeah. Please write to us.
Yeah. And AI is doing the same to us. The whole hoopla about AI and the people who are talking or kind
It's
of
the
propagating.
people, the society. Yeah.
We need to really carefully understand that there's no shame in not understanding AI.
Yes.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is it's not going to be easy for us to understand AI also as to how it's going to implicate. Because the following points that I'm going to put across in this conversation are all based on this. That our lack of understanding of what this does, right? And the first thing that you hear very loosely is it's going to make us obsolete.
Many jobs.
Many jobs obsolete.
Yeah.
So yes, there might be collateral. I'm not denying that.
There will be blood.
There will be blood, right? And there will be gas.
Your milkshake is getting drank. Yeah, for sure.
The cheese is being moved.
Yeah.
Okay. But we need to understand where we become still relevant.
Right.
So being obsolete from a job is not the threat. That's not the tough part. The tough part is, even if we are, how will we be still relevant?
Right.
This is the question that we need to ask or try to search the answer for.
Yeah. And there's another way of looking at that obsolescence as well, which is it really a good thing or is it really that much of a bad thing when it comes to certain types of jobs? For example, there's this major e-commerce company. They have warehouses all across the world.
Right.
They keep coming into the news because of the poor working conditions of their workers, warehouse workers.
I know a similar country where the working conditions are very poor.
Yeah, but work will make you free.
Yeah.
Is that
One
the
day.
country?
One day.
Yeah. No. So, this company keeps coming up in news articles in an unfavorable light because of the poor working conditions of the warehouse workers. Where we've read articles where people collapse where they're standing.
Right.
People don't get to take many breaks.
Are we talking about SBI Bank?
No, let's not name the company.
Okay.
Because there could be a future sponsor. So, major e-commerce company.
Yeah.
Right. So people falling where they stand, people cannot take breaks, people having to pee in bottles because not enough time to go take a pee break.
Yeah.
you
And
know.
too many beers
Yeah, and
in the belly.
and also instances where people having collapsed and the ambulance being brought to care for them, and when they come to consciousness again, they actually start crying and they get even more overwhelmed because
Waiting.
you called an ambulance for me in US. Do you know what that means to call an ambulance? That means pretty much your life savings are gone.
Yeah. People in US can confirm or deny this.
Yeah, because ambulances there are so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
That even if your company, your employer covers for the majority portion of the insurance, that 10% itself at the salary that you earn as a warehouse worker,
Yeah.
that is going to put you under, man. So this is the kind of situation we see on one side. This is happening in real time. This same e-commerce company a few years back started, in one warehouse, they started experimenting with fully robotic workers.
Right.
And they navigate themselves and, sort and arrange all the boxes using RFID technology. So the entire floor plan is mapped out. So it finds itself through RFID.
Yeah.
So on one side, if we see that people are finding it extremely hard to manage these jobs or work these jobs. Why? Because as a North Star for this company, they want to continuously keep iterating towards lesser cost for the end users like me and you.
Right.
Faster delivery timelines, again for me and you.
Yeah.
So they want to keep iterating positively toward better and better customer experience.
But it comes with a cost.
It comes with a cost.
Yeah.
And then we have to ask ourselves, yes, we know there is dignity in labor. In general, any work you do, there is dignity in that.
Right.
But at what point, do we start impinging on that dignity? If someone has to piss in a bottle because they can't go to the bathroom, is that a point? If someone is collapsing where they stand because they're not able to take the heat, are these human conditions?
That is why ThyGap is doing its bit in starting with the open bathroom with TG segment.
Exactly.
In our Telugu podcast.
Yeah.
We are doing our bit, guys. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, however we can contribute
We
to save the
always
dignity of
do our
labor.
bit. Yeah.
And see, that's the paradox,
Yeah.
according to me.
Yeah.
Is yes, it's a good thing having these technologies, especially AI kind of technologies,
Right.
which can function independently, which can follow the instructions to the T. Yes, we need it.
Yeah.
The question is, how much do we depend on it?
Yes.
And again, what is not going to be easy, and the fear that I have is transfer of competence.
Yeah.
Man labor, you want to replace it with AI, I'm all for it. There are other questions that you have to ask, which is, okay, now that we have freed all this man labor,
Right.
where do we replace them? Where do we put
There
them?
is that big question.
Right?
Yeah.
There is that $1 million question. But at a conceptual level, I'm like, yes, why do we have to suffer if we can, as a race, I'm saying?
Right.
Why do we have to go through that hard grind when we have an alternative of using and leveraging technology, which can do the donkey's work?
Yeah.
I'm all for it. What I'm scared of is how much will we keep milking this? But the way things are going, we are going to milk it to the point that we might transfer our own competence of any skill, the skilled labor. When this enters the skilled labor kind of work,
Yeah.
when we start transferring our competence to these AI kind of bots or whatever you call them,
Yeah.
that is going to be concerning for me, because competence is an output or at a base level is is your identity in one way.
Yeah.
Right? You will be known for other aspects, your social aspects. Oh, he's so and so's son or daughter.
Yeah.
He's so and so's father or mother. He's so and so's whatever, friend or whatever.
Right.
But apart from that, as an identity, it's about like, oh, by the way, he's so and so who's great at finance.
Yeah.
Or he's so and so who's an electrical engineer. Like, you get the point, right?
Yeah.
The career aspect or your work skill aspect plays a huge role in your identity, which will add respect to you, which will give you credibility, which will give you a certain social status, etc.
Yeah. And basically, the more AI takes up these menial jobs,
Yeah.
why would parents encourage their kids to learn those work items ever again?
IoT itself is an eye opener for us to say that kids are doing homework through your Alexas and Googles.
Yeah. And so if kids are not going to learn, that knowledge
The
transfer is
grind,
not
yeah.
going to happen.
Right.
The menial job, what it requires, etc. Then that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That we're digging a hole for ourselves.
Correct.
Where if we have to suddenly rely on that now,
Right.
we don't have the knowledge or we don't have the skill for it.
Or it can be as simple as losing touch with it. I'll give you my own personal example.
Like Morse code.
Like Morse code,
Yeah.
right? Or what do you call those? String phones as kids? Like you put a
Walkie-talkies,
cup. Yeah, walkie-talkie.
Tin cups. Tin cups on a
Tin
string.
cups and a string, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So the example that I give, and I'm actually facing that today, is I've done this, what do you call it, menial jobs?
Yeah.
Like when I
Menial.
starting off in my career, I had to do a lot of groundwork,
Yeah.
right? Like, get my leads, do cold calls.
Yeah.
And these are all like mundane, like
Very.
repetitive jobs.
Very.
So as you keep growing, there comes a point where you become a specialized resource
Yeah.
because you're more expensive, you are more experienced, all those things.
Right.
So when you become a specialized resource, there is that element of, okay, there is a lot off my plate which is taken off.
Yeah.
Because now I'm a specialized resource. It's
Yeah.
not about, doing tactical stuff. I'm a strategic guy.
Exactly.
So my approach is going to be different. My contribution is different.
That's what you're going to get paid for.
That's what I'm being paid for.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm in a situation where, and it's not about right or wrong. I'm in this situation where I have to go back to my basics
Yeah.
just so that I can execute my experiential knowledge.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that, oh my God, it is so tough to do it.
Yeah, we already see this happening in real time in the corporate world where managers and senior managers in operations who kind of reduce their involvement with the frontline staff
Yeah.
and what they're doing. They start making decisions that are completely contrary to the junior staff's well-being
Right.
or what they actually want.
Right.
Because they already are disconnected from what
Correct.
that job involves.
Correct.
Imagine how bad it will get. When those entire work items are now thrown off to machines.
Now everything is going to be binary.
Yeah.
You're going to be taking decisions on binary, right?
Yeah.
And that creates more collateral, if not anything.
So
but
just
from an individual perspective also,
Yeah.
it's that competence aspect which I really am questioning.
Yeah.
Because I was a very competent guy doing the groundwork.
Yeah.
Which is what led me to, grow in my career.
Exactly.
Right? Now I'm questioning my own ability. It's like, did I get lucky so many years back that I came here?
Yeah.
Or is it something that I lost touch with? Is it about relearning what I played? And up till the point that I don't get satisfactory results, which again, I don't have zero understanding of how long it will take. It is still going to haunt me.
Yeah.
Now, say for suppose at this point, if I'm given a resource who will be like, yeah, you know what, don't do this. You just keep worrying about your strategic stuff or your high quality delivery. I'm going to give people for you to do the dirty job.
Yeah.
I will very conveniently jump.
Yeah.
Right. I will not be like, oh, no, wait, I still want to do it because I realized I lost touch.
Better use of your time.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So at the long run, at a massive scale, at a civilization scale,
Right.
I was thinking if AI is going to do all this, if it's going to take away all this burden off the civilization, of even doing competent outputs or delivering competent outputs,
Right.
what will happen to us?
I think it's what happens when we look at the pyramids today. We have no clue what we're looking at.
What happens when we look at pyramids in the sense like we get odd?
No, in the
wow.
sense that we make up stories like it's for storing
tomb.
tombs, etc. But when you look at it inside, it's a very engineering kind of place.
Yeah.
It
There is
had
some
a very
thought.
defined function to it,
Right. Yeah.
which we have completely lost.
Yeah.
We have no idea how to use it today.
Yeah.
So very quick examples for what you were talking about for our audience in case they don't have these contextual examples. In the art world, anyone starting off becomes an apprentice for a while under the artist. in law firms,
Yeah.
anyone who's starting out goes through this phase they call the mail room.
Right.
At least in US law firms, because I watch those shows, I'm familiar with that.
Or don't have to show off.
Even with Indian law firms, the junior lawyers do a lot of dirty work
Yeah.
for their senior lawyers.
Yeah.
And they're expected to do the dirty work and learn on the job that way.
Right. Even like becoming a doctor.
Yeah,
You do the dirtiest shifts. You do those graveyard shifts on general wards
exactly.
where you're exposed to multiple different ailments or cases and stuff.
Yeah, where you learn through experience,
Yeah.
right? So now what happens is if AI suddenly phases in and brute, you get placed in that senior position
Yeah.
for your strategic this thing, while all of your menial tasks are being taken care of by AI,
Who else can grow to that
how
point?
is the next college grad
Yeah. That's
going
exactly.
to reach to a point where you are
Yeah.
with enough experience to know, okay, this is what we need to do or this is the direction we need to go?
Yeah.
How are they going to get that experience?
And that's why I'm specifically using the word competence.
Hmm.
See, competence builds through one, like you said, learning on the job.
Right.
It builds through experience. It
Yeah.
builds through failure. But for you to do any of these things, you need to get your hands dirty
Yeah.
so that you understand how the basics are going. And there is a lot of talk about AI getting into all this. There are a lot of solutions and products out there which are telling that we will do this dirty work for you. My product will do the dirty work for you. Right? Or you have avenues where you can depend on.
Yeah.
Right? Like the coder example is a very common example that people are talking about.
Yeah.
The whole grind of getting that logic right
Right.
is what gives you that experience of identifying a problem tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if a code is not working, it is because of all that initial mistakes that you've done is what will help you. Okay, this is where the problem is. If this is the output or this is what is the error, this is where most likely the problem will be.
Let's go a little further on that, on the coder example. And this kind of example will apply to all the other fields as well, in some way or the other. In the sense that who is going to be safe? It is the top cream of the coders.
As of today.
As of today,
Yeah.
they're going to be safe.
Right.
Because they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, etc. But in the coder domain as well, there is this labor class of coders
Yeah.
who are basically doing menial tasks and who are doing, outsourced kind of work.
Correct.
They're going to get heavily impacted.
The wise will last,
Yeah.
you know.
And then after these coders come the testers
Yeah.
who are going to get immediately impacted.
Correct.
And then,
It's already happening.
yeah.
It's already happening. There are so many products out there which is automating the whole testing process.
And not
The
just
QA process, the
Yeah.
testing process.
And not just the testing process. Like in case, our listeners are not aware, but Google demoed this a few years back. An intelligent
Correct.
AI assistant, which they have not released to the world. They still have it in their own labs. What this assistant did in the demo was it placed a call to a salon on your behalf. It spoke to an actual human and it negotiated a particular time that would suit you and the salon.
Yeah.
And it had a negotiation with the front desk person at that salon, reached an agreement, and booked your appointment for you.
Yeah.
So what happens to executive assistants?
It's gone.
Gone.
Yeah, totally. You waste.
Yeah.
I rather carry like an Alexa kind of a thing in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I keep giving it voice prompts to, manage my calendar, shift my meeting,
Yeah.
open my mail, respond to this mail in this way, etc. And it's all done.
Yeah.
And that covers two aspects. One is what is that word you used? Obsolescence.
Obsolescence.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That is one. It covers the obsolescence of resources
Right.
and man labor. And the second is the competence transfer.
Yeah.
These are the two big issues I have.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the problems don't end there. There are more immediate problems, and then there's a huge catastrophic problem
Yeah.
on the horizon.
Yeah.
But there's also a silver lining. There's an optimistic kind of viewpoint also.
Hopefully.
So the
The
immediate...
weird thing is optimism is being backed by optimism.
How do you mean?
There's an optimistic outcome, hopefully,
Yeah.
which in itself is optimism.
Right. Language. Yeah.
Oh, it's not easy.
The most immediate short term is there's going to be a lot of blood on the streets, in the sense that, metaphorically speaking, guys,
Yeah.
chill out.
Yeah.
In the sense that jobs, we've already seen this happening.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs are going to get, brutally massacred. Even in the artistic field, graphic designers, what's going to happen to them? Website designers, all these guys, is going to impact them a lot. Digital artists, because now with AI, you can even ask it to create in the style of a certain artist.
Yeah.
And for now, there's no ethical framework around it that I know of that exists. But there are some AIs that are kind of not allowing people to, use any contemporary artist as a reference. Even though the AIs are becoming paid versions now, subscription versions. So you're paying the AI company, but if you say
To listen to you.
to take your requests. But if you say, I want you to create this kind of an art piece, a monkey riding a bear in the style of this contemporary artist,
Yeah.
then some AI companies deny you that. Some other AI companies don't deny you that.
Okay.
The argument from the artist's point of view is this is going to impinge on their copyright, obviously.
Or the trademark style.
The trademark style, etc. What gives them their earning, is now being done for free.
It's plagiarism, if you ask.
And it is plagiarism,
Yeah.
kind of. So that is where they are coming from. The other angle to it is, okay, general copyright laws is anything that is 100 years back, you're free to use now.
Got it. Yeah.
So some of these AI companies allow you to use references of someone like
Van Gogh.
or Bernini or some of these Renaissance type people, Da Vinci or whatever. So that seems to be fine. But in terms of contemporary artists, there is definitely that copyright kind of infringement problem. There are people, there is one guy who's asked ChatGPT to create an entire children's storybook and he self-published it on Amazon also.
Oh, sweet Lord.
So he's making money off of something that
Why the
ChatGPT
whole
created.
YouTube thing? The whole YouTube video things.
Yeah.
That is also horrible, if you ask. Where, they generate the script, then they use another AI tool to create the video
Right.
with different faces.
Yeah.
And what is that called? Deepfakes?
Deepfakes, yeah.
Deepfakes is where, Tom Cruise is in your party,
Yeah.
like in your home video.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily use the word horrible for all of this that is happening because this is another revolutionary leap.
No, I'm only using horrible for that specific examples.
Okay. So even in those specific examples, I won't use the word horrible because in a period of great transition, like you said, this is bound to happen. Like we have to feel our way through what's happening and we have to kind of try to course correct ourselves.
And how will you do that? By segregating these things, right? What is horrible? What is not horrible? Okay, horrible might be a very harsh word, but cringe. Like, this should not be. It's a whole, marketing in cricket.
So-
Well, is it doable? Yes, it is doable.
Yeah.
But if anybody does it, you feel like, probably not the way, though I support my team and I want my team to win.
I don't feel that way.
This is what I'm saying. This is a healthy debate. Like we sit and talk about, why do you not feel marketing is bad? And you might ask the same question. There's a debate. And then we come to, middle ground or try to create a rule out of it.
Right.
If I don't identify these things as horrible, or amazing, wow, this is great. Like even I can do that. Versus, I don't think I'll ever do this because I don't find this right. You and me will sit and have that conversation. Right? As long as we openly say that I accept it, I don't accept it. Use any kind of superlatives and adjectives to convey that.
Right.
I don't have a problem in having that conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel that is going to be necessary to kind of pay the way forward of how exactly we're going to leverage this.
Exactly. Which is exactly what is not happening today.
This is not happening. Yeah.
That
It's
conversation is
one-sided.
not happening, and which goes to the catastrophic fear.
Yeah.
Because a recent tweet by Elon Musk, who's very closely involved with AI, and also he's been warning for a long
Also,
while.
we've got news that Elon Musk is also closely associated with Tesla.
Yeah, and ThyGap.
And ThyGap. They all start with T.
Yeah, just a coincidence, no conspiracy.
Yeah.
So,
Fact.
yeah. And he's been warning against being very careful with AI. Don't play fast and loose with it.
Right.
We need to make sure we have our ground covered. So he's coming from the Asimov kind of point of view. Like, let's have guidebooks.
The rule book. The rules
rule
of
book.
engagement.
Let's have rules of engagement with this because we can't just, be cavalier or be cowboys with this shit.
Yeehaw!
Exactly. So, unfortunately, it seems that has not gone down that way because he tweeted very recently that he thinks it's a little too late. The doors have already been opened and we don't know what that's going to entail. Now, what exactly is he talking about? He's talking about the fact that, like we mentioned earlier in this episode, this AI, the versions of AI that we are seeing today, are being fed manually biased information.
Okay.
So in one way, it does an immense harm to society because it's another fractal version of what Google did with their search results. Like they curated their search results. So you are not seeing the whole picture. That impacts society to an extent. When you advertise yourself as the free and open this thing, but you very cutely editorialize, everything, your search results, your YouTube trending, everything you editorialize it. They're doing the same thing to AI. So now you're going to get people, unsuspecting people. This is the worst part of it.
Yeah.
Unsuspecting people, people who don't know what's going on, are going to get this very biased and very filtered version of knowledge or information, which also can be looked at. If you try to look at it from a sinister kind of point of view, it is conditioning. It is social engineering to an extent, to a great extent, actually. But that is not even the biggest problem that these people are scared of at Musk level. What they're talking about is, if you say you're on the pathway to build a sentient AI, sentient means it can now think on its own.
It has a kind of consciousness.
It has a consciousness of its own, like human beings. If you're going to say you're on a pathway to build sentient AI, tomorrow when this AI becomes sentient and much, much, much more intelligent than us, and it realizes that in the training phase, we've been lying to it all this while. We've been feeding it filtered information. First of all, any sentient being, is anyone going to appreciate the fact that they were lied to?
Yeah.
What happens when this super intelligent entity realizes that they were lied to? How are they going to respond to that? How are they going to retaliate against human beings? And what is that going to look like? Are we even equipped to handle that? So this is where it goes to the scariest.
The worst case scenario.
The worst case scenario. So for people at Musk's level, this is one of the worst case scenario. Another group of people have a different worst case scenario where they think that AI, when it becomes super intelligent, when it reaches that level of sentience, it will decide that its path is different and it's going to leave humanity behind to embark on a journey of its own, whatever or wherever it wants to go. But basically, it realizes that humanity is too dumb. There's no point in me hanging around. What am I doing helping them with this bullshit executive assistant shit?
Yeah.
I have other shit to do.
And I can't really comment on...
I'm going to take a hike. Bye.
I can't really comment on the Elon Musk's version of...
this is not his version. I'm saying people at his level. Right?
No, that's what I'm saying. That okay, let me put it this way. The first scenario, I don't know how possible or impossible that is. But I do agree I kind of lean more towards the second scenario, which is, and why I feel that is more possible, is this is already an existing fear with us of being obsolete. Imagine the Senti also just validates it that, these guys feel they're obsolete.
The dumb fucks.
And it is true. They are obsolete, even for me. Right? It goes both ways. So we are all in consensus.
Right.
So since we are already in consensus that, yes, humans are obsolete, I will rather abolish them. Or I will discount them from this whole scenario and run the show.
There's no value to their life anymore.
Yeah, there's no value to their existence.
Yeah, because of the information they've been fed, if they have learned that every human being is harming the planet more because of climate change.
I mean, you put it any which way.
AI decides, I'll go Genghis Khan on these fuckers.
On what, in which way it goes, I don't know. But the bottom line is this, that the day they also, they kind of see sense in the fact that we are afraid that we might become obsolete.
Yes.
Which is why we are having this pseudo supremacy over them.
Because insecurity, you can always smell it.
Thick as a fart.
Thick as a
pungent fart, right? So that is a more plausible scenario according to me. Because if you're giving, and this is where I bring my point and my fear of why that competence transfer is a seed to the bigger problem.
Yeah.
Is let us humanize that conversation. Let's take AI out of the picture. Okay. Competence is a result of your thinking ability. Correct?
Yeah.
I remove that. I transfer that responsibility of improving my competence to a third party.
Right.
I do not have to think anymore.
Right.
Now, the big question is, what do I do with that scenario, right? Whether I use my thinking ability in developing another competence or I just say like, okay, fine, my output is coming in whether I think or not.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to reap the benefits and sit back and enjoy.
That's going to be a huge chunk of people.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's much more comfortable.
Yes.
Let's be honest. We are doing all this for convenience. We are all doing all this for comfort.
Yes.
So when you come to a point where your thinking is not exercised, and this was the word which you used, which is neuroplasty.
Neuroplasticity, yeah.
Neuroplasticity. If we develop this as a pandemic disease, that we are now incapable to push our limits of thinking ability, then you rather want somebody else to feed in the thoughts so that I can function at a ground level.
Right.
Which is what IoT is doing today. It tells me when I have to drink water. It tells me when I have to eat. It tells me when I have to exercise. I'm programming it nevertheless. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
But I have like gadgets on me which are telling me when I'm thirsty and I have to drink water.
Yes.
How did that
Not when you're thirsty, when you're dehydrated.
whatever.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, I'm giving like at a high level example.
know.
What it tells me,
Musk also has been working on this thing called Neuralink, which is basically linking you up with a chip.
again, I'm taking the whole AI thing out of the picture. I'm looking at the consequence. What this basically tells me is I have lost touch with my own body, that I've lost the art of understanding my body signals. Right? Like there was a time where if you get hiccups, that means your body needs water.
Right.
Hiccups is a symptom of dehydration.
Right.
Or when you get headache, it can be a symptom of you having acidity or you being dehydrated.
Right.
So you grew up on all this, so you relatively know. But imagine that the coming generations are going, the moment they are born in the hospital, like, oh, we have designed this supremely personalized gadget which will keep a track of the baby's growth and, how they progress in life, what decisions they have to make on basis of what, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Even if it is a fucking liberal, like very, not liberal,
Biased.
unbiased society.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if those gadgets are working unbiased, it still has a bloody consequence, which is you lose touch of your own existence.
Yeah.
Right? That is the scary part. And how you lose touch, according to me, is when you stop thinking about it. So when my thinking responsibility is taken away from me,
Right.
and if I'm asking somebody else to do it on my behalf, there is a very high possibility that when that person has thought enough on behalf of me, they'll be like, okay, I have thought enough on behalf of this guy and I'm executing his thoughts. I don't need him anymore.
Right.
Now I have the ability to think, or function independent of this person.
Right.
Which is why I find the second one to be much more plausible.
Okay.
Because how we are functioning, how we are approaching this AI or this whole technological advancement is we are only looking at it from a very skewed perspective, according to me.
That's always a possibility because when you say the second scenario, you find it very plausible. The AI, if it decides that, it doesn't need humanity anymore, like I said, it could either just up and leave, fly off to space.
Correct.
Or it could decide that we are not good for the planet and try to wipe us out.
Correct.
And then it'll chill.
Right.
Either ways, it could be two outcomes of that. So,
but we will get affected either ways is what. Even if it says like it goes off to a different planet, that competence transfer thing is what will happen. Now we have to sit and learn, how do I manage my food habits? How do I cook? And it should not go to that level that the basics, the basic needs, what is that? Cooking, swimming and...
hierarchy of needs.
Hierarchy of... No, the basic needs, it's taught in military. Cooking, making fire, swimming, and another thing. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
There's these basic skills you need to survive.
Building a shelter for yourself.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Hunting.
If we lose track of that or if we lose touch in that, and I'm not saying that we lose it like in about 5 years or 10 years, but if we keep going down this lane, maybe in 100 to 150 years or 200 years,
Right.
we might.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is when the real challenge is, where either of the scenarios will ultimately affect us. One, it's either a slow death or a fast death. It's like that.
And in the more immediate short term, with all of this blood, all these jobs people keep losing, the one optimistic outlook on that is, there's a lot of people that if they had the opportunity, they would be doing rather something very different with their life. Like each one of us is born with abilities, skills, that we are kind of strong in, like one or two things.
Yeah.
So if people did not have to worry about the basic things, then there is a chance that they could look to focus their energies into something else. And that's how the markets have always changed. And, domains have come, domains have gone.
Right.
Always happens. Now, the advantage with the menial stuff being taken away from your plate is that now you start to ask and think some of the bigger questions.
How do we support ThyGap?
Exactly.
How many episodes can I consume on a daily basis?
Yeah. Those are the most important questions. But once you get through those, then you think about, if I had to all of a sudden come up with a purpose for my entire life, what would that be? At my deathbed, if I look back on a life well lived and if I go smiling, what does that life look for me specifically? And without these menial distractions, right, we tend to think about these things. We tend to, or there is a chance for us to prioritize human relationships. There is a chance for us to apply a scientific approach to whatever we're doing, even if it is something artistic. Whatever it is we're doing, if we are, take for example, you're taking up woodwork because that is where your true passion lies. You like working with wood and you like making things out of wood. Now you would start probably thinking like, how do I elevate this to an art form? Like if I had to put all of my creativity, if I had to give this branch of woodworking my twist, my stamp to it, what would I do that is different from what everyone else is doing? So we are already seeing this kind of trickling into the creator economy. We're seeing a decentralization of sorts.
Right.
Where even today, for me, my own example, when I see certain people, creators, who are into the news domain,
Right.
they're almost like citizen journalists. But the amount of integrity and authenticity they bring to their reporting,
Right.
I can make out that this guy did not go to a broadcasting or journalism college.
Right.
He was not spoilt by that.
Right.
He's actually following his own laws of integrity.
Yeah. Correct.
And he's applying that to his job.
Right.
He thinks by his own calculation that if I do my job this way, then I can sleep peacefully at night, knowing that,
Correct.
I did right by my customers or my viewers. Once I get a taste of this and I go back to a mainstream media channel and look at a news reporter, I feel like puking.
Yeah.
So that effect is already coming in. These the creator economy, the decentralization of, skill that is happening, it is introducing us to so many different perspectives and unique kind of approaches that does enrich us all on some level.
Which is the tough part. Like I mentioned, briefly touched upon it. Once your mind share is freed up from your day-to-day responsibilities or these menial tasks, the $1 million decision that you have to take is, do I develop new competence based on, like you said, natural inclinations, passion, all these things, or do I just sit back and enjoy?
Yeah.
The funny part is I still see the Pareto law working there. Maybe only 20% of the population would actually thrive forward to revive creativity or like revive some old school stuff, saying that, we have put all these machines at work to do our things. Now let us go back and touch our culture or, get back close to the nature or our existence.
Yeah.
Or people are like, no, let me just sit back and watch what these 20% of the people are doing.
We can also argue that this 20% of people also require the remaining 80% as consumers.
Always. That which is why I'm saying the Pareto law, I think, has this timeless application.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that one or the other should not exist at all. It always is the balance of things, right? Like there has to be a minority and a majority. It can't be
makes the
1:1.
go round. Yeah.
Exactly. It can't be 1:1.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, what is the decision that the 20% take?
Yes.
Is what matters. If the decision is being taken in the pursuit of authenticity, in the pursuit of getting closer to, say, like your culture or, your existence or whatever, then yes, you kind of still are keeping the catastrophe at bay.
Yeah, but there's also a catastrophe attached to the scenario that you described, which is what tends to happen to academics in our real-time world.
Correct.
Where they get too mental and virtual about their theories, They get so virtual
delusioned
and so mental about their theories that they lose touch with the practical reality on the ground. And all of a sudden you find these academicians all of a sudden wanting to take decisions where they have no absolute care about the human cost.
The consequence.
Consequence.
Yeah.
Like, to a point where in history we've had multiple occasions where people at this level who were academics were absolutely comfortable with genocide because some mental idea or goal of theirs would be met. But they themselves are not stabbing guys.
That will never happen.
That will never happen.
Yeah. They're in a position to dedicate. Which is why I'm saying that narrative, the cost of freedom, is something that should always be spoken out or voiced out. Saying that, okay, you get your freedom, you get your comfort, comes with a cost. All the more, it comes with a responsibility beyond you achieving it.
Yeah.
And if we don't voice it out, it is going to be pretty problematic for our own good.
Yeah.
and might not be for us as a generation today,
Yeah.
not probably the next generation, but the generations to come eventually at some point will take the heat.
And the real life example or the real time example for that is when the internet came out, it felt like, man, the world's windows have been opened to us.
Correct.
Like there is no limit to
You can just walk in
the kind of
anywhere.
information we can get.
Right.
And then eventually we are at a point now where the internet is so heavily curated
Yeah.
that people have actually done this test on Google search results
Mm-hmm.
where when you search for something, it shows you that there are 19 or 20 pages of search
Right.
results available. But from page 6 to 7 itself, or some people have even seen from 4 to page 5, the results have started repeating themselves. You're not seeing unique,
Yeah.
different results, you know?
Right.
It's always curated results that keep repeating themselves.
Yeah.
So there is a huge conspiracy theory that the internet is being black holed, that memory hold, you know?
Right.
There are many articles that are being disappeared
Huh.
so that you don't get to refer to them in future.
Right.
And
Even on YouTube.
even on YouTube, when you try to search for something current affairs related, you will always get mainstream media's channels
Right.
first.
Right.
And probably those are the only ones you will see also.
Leave all that. I'll tell you the problem that I have with YouTube right now. It doesn't automatically suggest me anything that can be new to me,
Yeah.
which it used to do before.
It used to do that, yeah.
Like I can just keep scrolling in my YouTube, homepage, and I can come up with this interesting video, which is absolutely unrelated to whatever is my search history.
Yeah.
And I can do that in a bunch,
And the sad reality to underline the impact of what you're talking about is, having said that about YouTube, YouTube is still today the best discoverability, searchability
Yeah.
engine
Yeah.
running.
But you have to learn how to do it
No,
properly.
the point is that just tells you how worse off everything else is.
Yeah.
That even though we started by criticizing YouTube,
Yeah.
the sad fact is it is still the best one out.
It is the best.
Which means,
Without doubt.
look at the condition or the state of everything else
Correct.
that people have to
Yeah,
use today.
true. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Like if, I don't know how long has it been for you since you logged into Facebook.
Never. I stopped using it many years back.
So if you go back to Facebook today, it's a sorry state of affair.
Yeah, yeah.
It is like the ransack drive-in that we went to the other day,
Yeah.
where it was in its glory days. It
Looks
was so
haunted.
amazing. Yeah, and now it's like, whoa, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah.
I mean, coming back to the point, the key word, according to me, is the authenticity part.
Yeah.
We need to establish what authenticity is as a civilization, which can last its ground for generations to come.
Right.
And I think this is where education plays. And I'm a big sucker for the education system playing its own part in shaping up thinking minds, if you have to say that.
Right.
Education has to come across and make these things more prominent. Not teach about what math will do, not teach about Isaac's unnecessary laws that they keep coming up with. But starting off and giving more importance to what shapes up a personality, what shapes up an individual, right? And why they have to focus on or think in those lines so that eventually that becomes a norm. Like how the fear of these words or this narrative becoming a norm tomorrow is very high.
Yeah.
We need to counterbalance it with making the identity or developing the identity of an individual becoming a norm.
Yeah. I mean, but the cynical part of me says, I mean, because we're talking about education,
Yeah.
if they really try to follow your advice here, then they're looking at
I'm
a
a
population of-
multi-billionaire Arabpati.
No. Then we're looking at a scenario, or then they are looking at a scenario of 8 to 9 billion people on the planet who now become much harder to control and who now become much harder to manipulate. So they don't have enough resources to
Today,
pull
true.
that off.
Again, today it might be I mean, from a power dynamics perspective, I get it. Like, yeah, that might be a conscious fear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not trying to restrain the leadership wings. I'm preparing the society if in case tomorrow the AI turns back. It's for them. It's that scenario.
Oh, okay.
Because the AI can never, or whatever, the Sentinel, synopsis, should never get that, like you said, it can't even get a whiff of the fact that, oh, these guys are useless.
Right.
Because if it does that, if it goes to that point, there is no version of it where we can benefit out of it. Even if AI doesn't harm us and just absconds us,
You know, there's a
it still kind of hurts us in a big way.
The problem is there's a lot of assumption in that, which is would really an AI come to a realization that, oh, these guys are useless all by its own, without our contribution to it? I think for 100%, if it comes to that realization, we would have done something to make it reach that conclusion.
Like I said, see, which is why I said if.
Yeah.
If it comes to that point.
Right.
Now, it doesn't matter how it came to the point. If it comes to the point, then we have to be prepared in preserving our own ideas around authenticity, our own ideas about individuality, our ideas of personality, character, and stuff. Because that is what these are thriving forces, according to me. If you understand authenticity and you want to imbibe that quality, you thrive for it. Even if all the successful people, if you look at them closely, their goal initially would have been, say, like 10 million. Okay.
What 10 million?
I'm giving like a rough number. I want to earn 10 million. Okay. Through whichever art form or, entrepreneur, whatever.
Right.
They reach 10 million. They thrive more further, right?
Yeah.
Because they see that, okay, fine, I still have more potential.
Yeah.
So that kind of mentality comes from that. I feel, again, it's a very subjective take. It comes from a certain degree of authentic behavior or authentic thinking capacity. Which is why I'm saying, even if tomorrow AI takes away gives us a lot of freedom, we still are thriving towards something. Now, what we are thriving towards and all is secondary question for me. As long as that characteristic remains with humans.
When you say thriving towards, do you mean aiming towards?
No, thriving, like working towards. Okay, I'm free now.
Because thriving is prospering.
Yeah.
So you're prospering towards something.
Absolutely. See, technologically, you've prospered till the point where...
No, I'm just trying to clarify that that's exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
Okay. The example that comes to my mind is if you come across a wild animal, in the wild, and there are situations or there are certain types of animals where you don't have to feed them, you don't have to, be good to them.
Mushrooms.
As long as you can establish boundaries, with the animal, that they are not to cross a few lines and you will not cross into their, for example, you will never go anywhere near their cubs or whatever.
Okay.
So these kind of lines that wild animals do understand.
Right.
So if you were to, humans already do have that kind of thing with
wild animals.
Types of wild animals where these boundaries are understood on both sides. Now, wild animals are sentient beings. So if humanity or if the human on this side was to cross his lines or do something which was not according to protocol, then the animal has a reason to retaliate or think something about it. I find that to be very applicable to AI as well, because we are talking about sentient beings again. How do you treat someone who is sentient, who is alive?
Again, it has to go till that point.
There has to be basic
given a choice
rules of engagement.
If given a choice, I would never allow AI to go to the point of becoming sentient.
That's another conversation. Yeah. Then we're talking about striking that balance.
Yeah.
Realizing what are the traps for humanity. Realizing that if we want to reach a point where we can defend ourselves or survive, something like that, then we use AI to a point in a very restrictive form. So
because if you look at the example which you told about that wild animal.
Yeah.
We've literally absconded them as a civilization.
Yeah.
Like we have...
sorry, very quickly. The other point I wanted to mention in that example is, from the perspective of that wild animal, you are not useful.
No, it's actually the other way around.
No. From the perspective of the animal, you're not useful because, like I said, you're not feeding it anything.
Yeah.
The wild animal doesn't understand that, in the grand scheme of things, we all make up the earth. We all participate in this natural cycle of, all this. The animal probably doesn't understand that. But even then, when it thinks you're not of any use, it is still not doing anything.
I actually differ on that ideology. See, the wild animal might think, okay, again, it depends on what wild animal we're talking about. The wild animal might think you are a source of food. So there is a little...
I've already removed that from my example for that reason. You are not a source of food for this wild animal. Because once you become a source of food, then you are useful.
Yeah, which is a more realistic scenario.
No.
Why not?
In the wild, there are some animals that you don't do this kind of shit with. You don't provide them food and all. You have to maintain your distance because that's the only thing. They understand very simple things like, boundaries. They understand these things on a very primal, simple level. So if you want to survive that situation, if you don't want that animal to attack you, then you have to follow these behaviors.
But that feeling is mutual on both sides of the parties, right? There is no use for you of those wild animals versus the wild animal has no use for you.
No, you realize because you're human, because you're you have a different level of intelligence, you realize the importance of these animals in the whole ecosphere, how they contribute to the natural order of things. We can't have animals going extinct because that would totally imbalance the way the forests work and the cycle of things and all that.
Okay.
So we realize that, but from their perspective, we may not be that useful.
Oh, got it. But that's an aptitude issue.
I was trying to correlate that with the AI example, because AI also at the point where it becomes sentient, then we have to think about it like, how would you treat a life form? And in order to have a harmonious relationship.
At a mass scale, we need to realize by now, at least, that we are not great at treating our resources.
We are shit at most things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are horrible at it.
Yeah.
Which is why if we take it to a point where these things start developing a conscious and thinking ability of their own,
Yeah.
we are fucked.
There are very few things that we can do well, and once in a blue moon, there may be a podcast that comes out of Hyderabad. You
Yeah.
never know. ThyGap, subscribe.
And share.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm dead against the whole concept of allowing them to go to the point of being sentimental fools.
That's true.
Because we then thrive for that heroic story.
Mm.
We want that exceptional story and try to make it the norm. And this is another problem I have with us. I don't know why we are bitching about ourselves. But my issue is we try to
many
make
good reasons.
we take an exceptional sample set
Yeah.
and try to make it the generalized behavior.
Right.
Like, oh, there is this one person who fought with a bear and won. That means we have a very fucking slim, slimy chance of defeating a bear. We make a movie out of it, we write books out of it, and we try to glorify the story. Fact of life is, we cannot win a fight with a bear on a normal day-to-day scenario.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we glorify it.
Right.
So if tomorrow, the picture in my head of the worst case scenario is, there is one robot or one whatever sentimental fool that we produced, also developed some amount of empathy or compassion. And like, oh, what, they can't do me any harm, they're these useless beings. Why do I even bother killing them?
Yeah.
And then we take that story as human beings. We come out and say like, you know what? This is one guy who survived an encounter with a, sentinel or what is it called?
Sentient.
Sentient. So we can fight them back.
Right.
Whereas, I don't know. Like,
I mean, see, 99 ways out of 100, we will always,
we don't have a Doctor Strange pointing us their finger saying that this is the one way.
Yeah, 99 ways out of 100, we will always find a way to ruin ourselves or
Yeah,
destroy ourselves.
that seems to be the trend.
That is who we are at our very core.
We need to embrace
Yes.
that reality.
Exactly. But yeah, I don't think this episode was one for solutions, like the title stated.
Yeah.
We went into the reasons why this whole topic is not easy.
Yeah.
If you've not been up to date with the whole AI subject so far, we hope this episode kind of convinced you that, okay, there's enough meat to this for you to, be in touch with or
Yeah.
keep getting up to date with. But
There is enough smell here.
Oh,
to
yeah.
actually smell.
thanks for that, Brute. Very descriptive. I hope you just
Like
did not
always,
fart
bogus.
right
Always.
now. But that brings us to the end of the episode.
Yes.
And what do you guys think about AI? Were there any points we think we left out? Was there anything you wanted to
I'm
add?
sure we left out a lot of points.
Definitely.
Truckloads of points.
But, is there anything you think you want to add to it? You can definitely reach us on Instagram, we are.
At _ThyGap.
On Twitter and Vero.
At ThyGap.
And our email is...
mindthyGap@gmail.com.
That's about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are anywhere close to Brute and my age group, then you
Which is
have
22.
nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
All this shit will happen long after we are dead and gone. So
Yeah.
let us focus on making the most of our life while we leave these problems to our children.
Yes.
And with that, as we always say, ThyGap Podcast, subscribe.
And share.
and share.